You know, the one creepy thing that was said to me, it was one of the locals stopped by right after I bought the place, and they pulled up and they said, "You know you just purchased the nut house?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" They had said when they were younger, they remembered their parents driving by with them and seeing women waving out of these windows up on the top floor, and it stuck with them for the rest of their lives. It was so scary to them. But she always said when her parents said she was going to be in trouble, they were going to send her to the nut house right here. My name's Adam Kimmell. I am the owner of Madison Seminary out here in Madison, Ohio. I purchased the building back in September 2016. I was filming out here, and I had already previously filmed 3 times before that, and each time I fell in love with the building a little more each time. And the architecture, the way it was built just really caught my eye. And when you even go deeper than that, just the history. This is over 170 years worth of history just layered on top of one another. So just a real quick summary of the history. You have people like Elizabeth Stiles. She was a Civil War spy. She was for the Union. She worked directly with Abraham Lincoln. In her final days, when this was the Madison home at the turn of the century, she stayed here and died. She's buried just next door, just the cemetery plot right over there. You've got the history of honor inmates when the county was using it here, when they took honor inmates from the Marysville prison. They had about 6 or so, and they kind of helped while there were the elderly here. One famous case was a woman by the name of Blanche Jacobs. She was the wife of an admiral, Navy admiral, and she killed both of her landlords by stabbing them because she got caught for check fraud. And it's baffling to me when they talk about honor inmates, because it didn't seem like they had a financial problem, and then she was put here. She didn't have any problems when she was here, but she served the rest of her time out here taking care of the elderly as well. So the farthest structure that has the pillars in front of it, that is known as the Madison Seminary, it was originally constructed in 1847 as a school for elite boys. Eventually, over time, it would merge where they would just take all children, but that's what it started as. Soon after that, the Women's Relief Corps would purchase the entire property and would construct the next big, massive building to the right, which is known as the Ohio Cottage. Their construction would begin in 1897. That building was done in 1901, and they housed only women here. The elderly, the senile, they took care of everyone. That side, actually, if you take a look at all the rooms, there's 88 rooms total, so they could house a lot of women. Some rooms could house 3, most house 2, and then upstairs here, where we're sitting right now, this would house your most severely ill, 1 per room or so. The structure we're in right now is known as the Ohio Cottage. It was constructed in 1897, and it is 3 stories high. We're going to take you through it. I always tell people, if you're wearing a Fitbit, you're going to go about 4 miles here on stairs. This is the first floor right here. This is one side where the caretakers would have lived. They would have been taking care of the property out in between 1940 and 1970. To our right over here is where the residents, patients, all would have stayed on this side here. It is slowly crumbling, but I assure you we're fixing it. I think we got we got a wicker wheelchair hiding somewhere around here. But, you know, I tell a lot of people, because it's the truth. They ask me, why did I even buy this building? It's probably the stupidest reason to some. That window is a ruled window there, so it's got that weird effect when the sun goes through. During the magic hour, a blue tint will cover the floor, and it is just beautiful to look at. That's really one of the first reasons I was like, I gotta have this place. This is the second floor of Ohio Cottage. Take you over to a room known as Sarah's room. Now, there are no records of any children dying here or ever really staying here as a resident, but a lot of people believe there is the spirit of a child here. This would be the room. This is something really cool. There are a lot of treasures to find out around here, and just behind us, we found this in the garage. It dates back to 1940. I'm not sure if this was for Christmas or Halloween, but take it as it is. These are a lot of toys. I did not put any of these toys here. These have been brought here by anyone who has come to visit the place. So it's a little bit of a collection. I love collecting a lot of the antiques. Ultimately, my goal is to refurnish this with a lot of the stuff that used to be here at the turn of the century. So far I have 3 of these. We're working on getting more. But they are authentic. These are the real deal. They're not replicas. Over here, I like to call it the Blair Witch Room, just because there is a, well, why don't you come take a look? I didn't put this here. Well, I guess I lied. I did put this here, but let's talk about this here for a second. I have no idea why this is up in this room, but it looks some kind of scaffolding to something, but it's just weird. I mean, you could have hung clothes on it maybe, but it just looks something like a colonial. We'll take you upstairs to the actual asylum where they used to keep some of the most mentally ill. Well, do take a look at this real quick. Some of these ornate hinges, you're not going to find this in a lot of places anymore. So we are now up on the 3rd floor of the Ohio Cottage side. This was the rec room up here, a day room. What I've heard from accounts of some of the elderly in town is there used to be a bunch of wicker wheelchairs up here, just a place to relax. Now down here, this is where some of the most mentally ill would have been kept. Very tight quarters. They would have maybe kept 2 to possibly 3 women in some of these rooms. And just over here is the actual chair that came with the property. It's got quite a history to it. Now, it was serving dual purposes. You could have used this as a dentist chair and also for lobotomies. In the 80s, this was also used as the police station. They would do all their dispatch out of here. They would actually house, they didn't really house any prisoners here or inmates. They had a drunk tank downstairs. There's one small room. A lot of police officers never wanted to work dispatch out here because they could hear people running upstairs, and they never used really the 2nd or the 3rd floor where we are now, and they constantly heard doors slamming, running. That was something that really sold me on it. But like I'm saying, from 1847 up until 1993 when it went back in the market, it was constantly in use for something.